will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. First item is the minutes from the June 1st, 2026 meeting. Is there any commissioner comment? Any staff comment? Motion to approve? Motion by Golis, second by Kim. All right, all in favor? Aye. Aye. That passes.
Not there.
Passes 4-0 with Commissioner Kunda abstaining. The next issue is application 217-384-1075, Eagle Road, for proposed 15 buildings on one lot, primarily for elderly residents. This is a revised plan that has been reviewed multiple times. Back in 2023, I think it started, and also once again in the past year. Here to speak, looks like the project owner.
Yep, my name is Greg Lingo. I'm the owner of Rockwell Radnor, who's the owner of the property. We were in front of this board previously, most recently, before going to the zoning hearing board to get some relief, which we were able to attain. And just a reminder, the relief we were looking for had to do with some steep slopes that were impacted slightly as a result of creating more circulation within the community. We were able to get a road all the way around the property rather than before it kind of dead-ended. And then in addition to that, in terms of a sense of arrival and a real upgrade to the community, was taking the assisted memory care building, which is the first big building on the right there, and moving it over closer to the property line so that as you drive up, you're not looking at the back of that building, but instead you're looking at a nice vista of the rest of the complex. With me tonight is Rob Lambert from Site Engineering.
Good evening. As Greg mentioned, the plan was all previously approved, so the same number of units, same general configuration. We're developing in the same portion of the site. We were here before the zoning hearing board to get your recommendation. We got the zoning approval. We have been to Shade Tree. We have a recommendation of approval from the Shade Tree Commission. We did receive 2 review letters, one from Gannett Fleming and one from Gilmore Associates. Both letters will comply. I'm happy to go through any questions you have in them. Most of the, as we went through a whole plan that was approved and is actually under construction currently. Most of these are kind of cleanup from the areas where we changed stormwater and grading, and there's a fair amount of adding striping and signs and things like that really don't have an impact to the plan itself. But overall, as Greg mentioned, we moved the assisted living memory care building kind of off to the right. We have an area of parking, but what we really created was, as you come off of Eagle Road, you come up, we have a little bit of a traffic circle roundabout as a relief as you go up the hill, and then you have a boulevard, right? So we actually separated the ingress and egress from this, have a little bit of boulevard, have landscaping up the center to a point of arrival right at the main building. You can enter the personal care or memory care building separately, but if you're going to enter the complex, you have really a nice sense of arrival there. What we also did was we have a driveway that now goes fully around the perimeter, and this was really in response to some of discussions with emergency services, talking to them about how they would access the property, where they would go, and so we were able to provide that full circulation around the perimeter of the buildings with a new driveway. And then just little minor tweaks. We added a greenhouse to the plan just to create another place to go on the property. So overall, excited to kind of continue the construction moving forward. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Staff, is there any comment from
I believe most of the comments in my letter are just cleanup items. I do have one question. Do you have the numbers with you of the buildings got slightly larger? I know there's no more, it's the same amount of units and all of that stuff, but some of the buildings, the footprints got a little larger. Do you have that difference?
I don't have the exact square footage of the floor area, but per your comment, will be coordinated with the township for any additional fees.
All right, thanks.
Ms. Bogdan?
Just one thing was with the new layout, I know there were some site distance concerns coming out of the garages now around the loop road. Do you foresee that being an issue, or will those have to be relocated?
I don't see that you're referring to kind of the driveway, the garage entrance at the top, kind of
Correct,
in the
yeah.
corners there. I don't see that an issue. I think we can work on the grading around those corners. If we have to, we can add it's an internal driveway, so we can always add a stop control if we need to.
Okay, yeah, otherwise, just some cleanup comments on my end.
Any commissioner
Rob-
comment?
Rob, my only thing is, it's a little unusual, actually. This is, rare that somebody has final approval, they have the plan, and then they want to revise it. And in my opinion, it's a much better plan for it. But was that organic, or was that because?
It was really organic. So with this project, believe it or not, it's almost, we're sitting here in 2026, but this project started really in 2020. We went through, many different iterations of the plan before we even came to you the first time, worked on enhancing that plan, got a plan approved. And as you can imagine, designing all these buildings is an effort to be able to go through and design a whole community like this really in one fell swoop. So over that design time is getting more input, more answers, having an owner willing to change a plan to enhance it and make it better, which was, really good.
Is that loop road a one-way loop?
No, it's really just the two-way driveway. I forget the exact width, but we do have parking along some of it. It's wide enough to be able to have parallel parking along it too.
Is there going to be clear signage so that you direct traffic to the proper routes?
Yes. The real flow of traffic is really going straight all the way up to the main entrance. So if you don't know where you're going, it's really just kind of a straight line all the way up. But this does allow for, deliveries not to have to circle around the building. Circle around the building. We can actually have deliveries come up, and then they can enter the building, in a discrete location in the back.
Any other commissioner comment? Any public comment? Please step forward to the mic, announce your name and address, and
My name's Joe Cossey. I'm a resident of Wayne, Bloomingdale Avenue. I just wanted to ask, when is the expected completion of this project?
It'll be demand-driven. So far, we have 65 deposits on what we're calling Phase 1, which is our first building in our amenity center building. We're hoping to start vertical construction there by the spring for the first people to move in the winter of '28. So we would hopefully be finished up by about 2030.
but and with, I'm sorry, Mr. Craig, so you're saying that the first move-ins would be the winter of '28, which is like December, the end of 2028?
That's our thought. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Mr. Kunda is going to recuse himself, but at this point, we'll take a vote. All those in favor with the cleanups that they said that they would comply with regarding the Gannett and the Gilmore letters. All those in favor of passage of 217384-1075 revised, say aye.
Well, I second it, and then
I'm sorry. Second.
yep, aye.
All right, passes 4-0 with Mr. Kunda recusing himself.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Sure.
The next item is zoning ordinance amending the code of the Township of Radnor, Chapter 280, the zoning for non-conforming uses. This amendment was discussed at our previous meeting last month. There were some cleanups done to the actual amendment and also to the amended ordinance. Also, some examples were provided to the commissioners for different types of non-conforming uses that may come into play in this ordinance. So with that being said, does the staff have any additional comment regarding the amended ordinance? Commissioner comment.
Well, unfortunately, I missed the meeting before I was sick the prior month, but I still have a question here about, I don't know if this is in an existing ordinance that we already have, but in that case, I wish we did not, in that case as well, the reference to compulsory merger of two non-conforming lots, which, sometimes that destroys property value for an individual. I imagine you might have two or several non-conforming lots or a twin or something like that, and suddenly you can't have that anymore. And I was hoping that would pop up in the examples, but I did not see that. I don't know if you can address that, Mike, or not. The idea, when do you it leaves the date out, of course, but it says the adoption of this provision talks about this merger of title. Bothers me.
I'm sorry, you're asking if this is a change from the existing ordinance, or?
In part, I looked at the existing ordinance, and perhaps I was there and I missed it, but I didn't see that in the existing ordinance. And even if it is, sometimes things like that could perhaps not be there in the first place. You don't have to continue a wrong by doing it again.
Just to clarify, he's referring, I believe, to 280-176 Part D, just to make sure you're on the same topic.
What page of the,
4,
page 4?
or the original 4.
The application. I'm sorry, I want to be looking at exactly what he's looking at.
It's on page 6 of the revised, maybe it was on 4, but it starts with as of or subsequent to, and then a long line in the paragraph, if you're trying to spot read it.
There's a big blank in the clause.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the date of the adoption of this provision. So that'll just get filled in.
Yeah, but my question is why, I guess, or how do you, I can't picture, how would the example arise, I guess? Are you going to go, is the zoning officer going to go through all the non-conforming lots and say if you ever want to develop, you must join these two lots at this point, or how will you approach that, do you think?
Oh, to determine whether or not.
They have to be joined.
Right. I'm not going to be able to come up with a hypothetical on the spot. I apologize. But with regards to non-conforming use and any provision in the ordinance, it would, however the evidence is provided, just anything that's pre-existing from the date that the ordinance is passed is what would qualify. But as it speaks to this subsection, I don't know the practical mechanism that the zoning officer would deploy.
Well, that was my main issue, I guess.
Yeah, I apologize.
I have and I appreciate the staff sending over Skip, are you done with? Yeah. Okay. I appreciate the staff sending over the examples of non-conforming building, lot, and use. Can staff provide more sort of detail? Let's take, for example, the non-conforming use, which is actually down the street from where I live, the Ritas that opened up, that if we do not make a motion to pass an ordinance right now, just for my sort of logic and exercise and mental exercise sake, what we're saying is that the only uses that can go on the upstairs floor are either it's the business owner living up there, or if this becomes a church and somebody can have one dwelling unit upstairs. Is that correct?
You're talking about the last example?
Yes.
So what this is saying that that it being it was prior to the ordinance being passed, the church or similar place of worship was conforming. Once the ordinance changes that use, it can continue to be. It could continue to operate that way unless abandoned. Unless that use is abandoned, which is stipulated exactly what abandonment means in this new revised ordinance. If it were to be abandoned, according to the technical language, that building can no longer operate with that use going forward. And it would only be able to, once the ownership passes to the next landowner, only what is permitted by right under the existing ordinance will henceforth be permitted in that. It will be the only permitted use in that building. So if it existed as a church prior to the passage of the ordinance, that could continue to operate as a non-conforming use unless abandoned. And the primary purpose for the passage of this zoning amendment is to stipulate exactly what constitutes abandonment, because it's my understanding that Radnor had some issues with that in the recent past. Exactly what constitutes the abandonment of a prior non-conforming use.
So I know this building was vacant for a while. I don't know if it met the definition of abandonment. I think it was just going through a regular sort of lull in tenancy. I'm asking the question because I would love to have more flexibility to provide more housing in this township. And I want to make sure that whatever motion we take here and that we pass allows that flexibility. So if we all vote on this change to the zoning ordinance here, can the upstairs of this Rita's be converted to 2 apartment units? Would that be an okay thing to happen?
Set forth for use. That would be only if that is what the permitted use. For this particular building, it would have to be henceforth zoned that way. And so
I don't think
it's
so.
not.
I think it's already 2 units up there.
Then it would, unless that, I'm sorry, then I had the example reversed. Then if it's currently operating as 2 units, then that would be the non-conforming use that, unless abandoned, you could keep it as 2 existing residential apartments, unless under this ordinance, the use is abandoned. When I say abandoned, I don't mean the whole building is boarded up.
I understand, yeah.
But yeah, if given a specific amount of time, it's either 6 months or 12 months or whatever stipulated in the ordinance, if that use is abandoned for a certain amount of time, then yes, henceforth, permanently, that building will only operate, the only permitted uses will be those stipulated in the current current zoning ordinance.
What if I propose another thought exercise? What if, let's say, the owner wanted to create 3 apartments upstairs?
That wouldn't concept, I'm trying to come up with a reason to say maybe, but that would not, a third apartment would not be anything remotely like an accessory use. I would say that unless it's zoned for like multifamily or multi-unit, two existing residential apartments if the entire building were zoned in a way that doesn't limit the number of apartments, is it because it's a non-conforming use you're asking, can you now partition
Yes.
one apartment into two apartments?
I think we did something like that with John's Market.
That, the one thing I do know is that the answer to that question isn't contingent on this ordinance passing or not. It would be whether the current non-conforming use already permitted it. So if that's at all helpful, if as it exists now,
Okay.
you could get permission or a permit to partition it into 3 apartment units, then it would be okay. But I don't know the answer as it sits right now if it's permitted to be three different units. But the answer to that is not contingent on the current zoning ordinance being considered.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Is that at all?
Yeah.
That
it's
makes
helpful.
sense.
Yep.
But I'd like to,
Well, can we make a motion and just,
I had a question.
okay.
I just wanted to tag on to what Mr. Kim said. So there was an Asian restaurant there that had 2 apartments upstairs. The Asian restaurant closes down, and it takes more than a year to refill that space. Yeah. Oh, right, I understand.
That means that if we don't vote.
Then we just don't vote. That's, right. I kind of agree. I agree. This will just be discussion? Discussion, yeah, okay. All right, see you, Steve, thanks. So the Asian restaurant closes down, the 2 apartments remain rented, and more than a year goes by before they can find a new tenant, which probably happened. I don't know how long it took, but it seemed like a long time. So now that Rita's moves in, but it's been more than a year, only the Rita's proprietors are allowed to live upstairs? Is that what this says? Or the watchman?
Oh, I don't think that the residential apartments up top, I don't think are contingent on the commercial use beneath. Is that your understanding of that property?
Yeah, I would agree with that, yeah.
So that's not what it's contingent.
The example says that the only people that can live above Rita's are the owners of Rita's or the watchman.
Oh,
But- That was the way I read the example. But that's not the way it existed before the ordinance was placed, so people that aren't the watchmen are allowed to live there. But once the non-conforming use is abandoned for over a year, which if the restaurant downstairs closes and it takes 13 months to find a new tenant, I'm asking, does that mean the tenants are now evicted? Unless they own the place or
well, just taking a step back, it won't, it's probably not the crux here, what you're asking, but just not being able to find a tenant would not necessarily mean it's the use is abandoned. But you know, that being said, I am rereading this. If the non-conforming use under Section 280 TAC 47, if the only people that could live up there are the proprietors of the commercial use below, the answer is yes, that would be the non-conforming use. But one, that brings up all sorts of landlord-tenant law. Like no one's getting evicted instantly, but that kind of runs separate from the zoning ordinance. That's a little bit of different rights that are at play there. But also, this is just hyper-focusing on this subsection. The entire zoning district may permit residential units in that building It's just those 2 residential units currently are being occupied by the proprietors of a commercial use below. So I can't, a definitive answer to that would require just having the entire section up in front of us. But if the, what is certain is that if the commercial use below is abandoned, then the rights to, the use for those 2 to be residential units for the proprietors of that commercial institution, yes, that would no longer be a permitted use. But with regards to, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole as whether or not you're going to be evicting people that rightfully lived there at that time, but yes, that hypothetical, the answer is yes, that's no longer, once the commercial use is abandoned, then section 280 tag 47, then yes, those 2 residential units are not permitted for under the zoned right for the proprietors of that commercial use. It's a little kind of, it's all connected kind of in a way, but I would have to look at the total district, what all the uses in that district. There's likely a permitted use that just allows residential up top, but I don't have the entire section in front of me.
I think there's an overlay right there
Okay.
for that district.
Okay.
I mean, it's out of the WBA, but it may be a different overlay.
It's a small
WDOD.
area.
I'm
It
sorry.
extends down West Wayne and Conestoga in both directions. It's kind of a extra commercial mix. I forget the name of the ordinance offhand. Do you remember, Matt? No. But you know what I mean. That's how we had a florist and at the same time, and the daycare, I think, had apartments on top of the daycare down the street, et cetera.
So I actually, Mike, I don't have any questions for you. I have, when this was introduced at our last meeting, I asked Peter a bunch of questions about timing, why you'd have a zoning officer who could or could not, like, keep a record of irregularities. That kind of language just, to me, it was like, well, if you have a zoning officer who's looking for irregularities, when he finds them, he should mark that, because we have a problem all the time with, like, things happening, projects happening where there's no record. You know, for some reason it got through the cracks, or, you know, you look up to see what one owner had done to trees, for instance, removing trees, and there's no record of it. So on the Shade Tree Commission, we're thinking about, like, having a look-back function on some of the zoning work we do, so that we would know when things happen and how much of an impact it had. But that language in there, just, I was like, don't put language in there like that, because I think it weakens the effort. And the other thing that was weird that I didn't really get an answer to, and I know this has been before the BOC, so John Rice presented the ordinance changes to the BOC I think their last meeting, or one of their last meetings. They had very little to say about it, but we're going through a thing in Radnor with a new vision project for, you know, like our code and like how people live here, and sort of everything that has to do with ordinances and what they stand for. And this project does not coincide with that. I mean, this ordinance change does not coincide with that ongoing project. And so my fear is that, you know, and the explanation was this is 10 years of cleanup this is a 10-year cleanup project on this part of the ordinance. So my concern is just, it's a public realm concern, and that's, will people understand, like, how these two things are parallel to each other, but they're not integrated into each other. It's sort of like, all of a sudden we decided to clean up a part of the code, but we know that there's a lot more in the code that needs cleaning up. And the last thing I'll say, just for the record, is that, you know, our zoning code officer left. just as this ordinance change was being proposed. So for me, like I was a journalist for 40 years, the timing of it and the explanations of why we're doing this don't leave me feeling like, oh, I get it. They more leave me feeling like, why this spot, this time? And I'm done, but it's just, I think the public won't know what to make of it. And Mike, I'm not asking you things, I just wanted to get that on the record.
Sure.
And if we're going to continue this in some way, because we don't have a voting quorum anymore.
So we will not be voting on it tonight, but we're welcome to
I
discuss.
understand. I'm just going to request an example of a situation where two non-conforming lots are merged by someone. It doesn't exactly say that, it just says they will be merged. I don't get that. Who decides that?
Yeah, at the last meeting, it was presented to us that this ordinance would protect citizens from predatory speculators. But I'm still not understanding that logic, so. And I'm not sure it's been presented clearly, how this prevents speculation, so.
So just without weighing in too much or in a way that you're not asking, I just, the way, my understanding is this is in reaction to certain landowners just trying to take advantage of the absence of an ordinance, a stipulated ordinance surrounding non-conforming use. And there's case law that establishes non-conforming use that one could rely on in court, but ultimately it's very landowner friendly if you can't point to very specific ordinances defining things like abandonment or the definition of non-conforming use. So to the extent that a township could still function properly, it absolutely can without defining these terms in the ordinance. You're very reliant on just case law, which ends up being very landowner friendly at any given time. So it's my understanding this is in reaction to particular litigation that I can't speak further to just because I wasn't there, don't know the details of.
Okay.
But that's my understanding.
We're going to just continue.
So keeping in mind that we won't be voting, is there any public comment on this ordinance change or any public comment at all? All right. Based on that,
I'd like to make a motion to continue this until we have a quorum next meeting, hopefully.
Second.
All in,
aye.
Aye.
I'm not sure if we can vote on it or not. I don't know. I'm not really sure we can do. I don't know if we can end the meeting. It's like the Hotel California.
Yeah, can they-
You can check out, you just can't leave.
it just looks like a taking here.
I'm going to make a motion to adjourn regardless.
And I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody said aye.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think the other mic